And here they are, your hosts, Dylan Weissman and Mike Langser.
Episode 169, Mastering Mitzvahs. That's Mike. I'm Dylan. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
The sun is shining, my allergies are kicking my butt, and all is right in the world.
Hey, we're both fresh off of vacation, so we have nothing to complain about.
You are very tan, I am very burnt, but life is good.
Yeah, I didn't even see too much sun, by the way. It rained more often than not for me.
Florida UV is built different, man.
guess
But
so.
We got another brain dump for you today. And the title of this really, it boils down to services and what about them, right?
Services meaning ceremonies.
Right. So being the actual bar bat mitzvah service, like kinda the quintessential reason to have a party is in this service, and what we have seen, how it affects the celebration as a whole, and what you do with it, right?
And here's the big caveat. We're not talking about the bar bat mitzvah service taking place at temple, at the shul, at the synagogue, where it's traditional. We're talking about the off-site service, whether the party's in somebody's home and they need to hold the service in their home before guests arrive, or the party's at a country club or a hotel and the service takes place on-site at that hotel. I don't want to be using words on-site and off-site in a confusing state, but let's just say, for the sake of today's podcast, it's any service that is not happening at the traditional temple.
Okay. That's different than what I thought, because I was actually going to talk about everything, because there are some nuances to having your service take place at the temple, because then there's transportation aspects to it. But maybe that's a whole other podcast in itself.
Let's do that.
So the reason this came up, Mike, is about 2 weeks ago, three weeks ago at this point, 4 weeks ago, something like that. Very, very recently, I had an event where we showed up and a rabbi cornered me in the truck while I was taking gear out of it and said, "All right, you got the mics for the service, right?" And I had no idea that there was a service taking place in general, let alone that we needed to be a part of it. Which then threw up some crazy red flags, and all's well that ends well. We provided a handful of microphones and some speakers for it, and we made it happen. But there was so much unnecessary stress. There was just a whole mess of different fallout that happened from it. The event was wonderful. The celebration was great. The family had an amazing day. But boy, could it have been even geared up to 12 had we known about it.
So how did that happen? First off, a lot of times a family believes that the venue or the rabbi are going to just provide a sound system. Let's go off of the notion, like in big bold letters, don't assume anything. Don't assume anything in the event planning world. So don't assume that the rabbi is going to bring his own speaker or microphone. Don't assume that the venue has a speaker or microphone, or if they do that, it's adequate enough. And don't assume that your DJ is just going to be there early enough with extra gear.
So game rule 1 is, where is the location of your service taking place? And then game rule 2 is, what are the needs of that service, including when are guests arriving? That affects your start time of the service. How long is your service? Talk to your rabbi about this. Talk to your cantor about this, because that affects the start of your cocktail hour. And basically, you back into the rest of your celebration from there.
Sure. And which room? What room or area is this taking place in?
Right. So in this case, the cantor, it wasn't a rabbi, it was a cantor, it was 2 cantors. They needed 3 microphones and a hookup for a guitar. Fortunately, in this specific van that I had at this event, we had enough odds and ends to make this work. But going back to what you said, don't assume anything, that is not the normal. That is not the typical.
Yeah, there's the other big caveat. That's not simple, by the way. Like, a lot of times, it's going to be a simple service. It's just a couple guests. It's only going to be 45 minutes. It's not really a big deal. We hear that all the time. But that's an assumption. The live sound is a hard thing to do for a lot of DJs. The quote-unquote DJ typically shows up with a microphone, maybe 2 speakers, maybe if they're big enough, they have some subwoofers for some extra oomph, but they don't have the ability to do a ceremony set up in one room and then the party set up in another space.
Yeah.
What the curveball that you got was a crazy one, but again, we happen to have extra equipment. We always have backup equipment, and sometimes our vehicles are packed for multiple events. You, if I remember correctly, had a Saturday and a Sunday worth of gear in our truck.
Yeah, which had, I had a wedding the day before. the day before, where I had the ceremony system that we had for that. But to digress back into the idea that you don't always have what you need, one of the things that you can ask your cantor, your rabbi, is what are your needs? And if they don't know what their needs are, that's when you put us in touch. Hey, rabbi, hey, cantor, how big is the space? How many different areas are you reading from? Because at a temple, for example, at least the ones that I'm familiar with, there's a spot where you read the Torah, that has a microphone. Then there's a whole nother podium where maybe you read your Haftorah, or you read your thank you speeches from, or the rabbi stands and gives commentary. That has a microphone. And then in a lot of really great higher end synagogues, they have like satellite microphones that are rugged from the ceiling that's capturing all the ambient noise, whether it's from a guitar player or a vocalist or something like that, or the congregation in general. So when they come off site, or in this case on your reception site, what are the needs? Multiple speakers, multiple microphones, multiple hookups for musicians. What are the needs? Asking that question is another early step.
Yeah, let's also not get too technical here, but there's a lot of different types of microphones for different purposes. There's the clip-on microphones that are wireless, and maybe the rabbi wants that so that he could go get the Torah out of the ark and put it out on the display. But that might not be an accessible piece of equipment. We may only be able to provide a handheld microphone, and that could be handheld on a stand or handheld just in their hand. For the bar mitzvah boy or girl, bat mitzvah girl, or sometimes twin siblings, sometimes they ask for a microphone for each of them, which might be redundant or unnecessary because they're typically not reading at the same time. So all of this needs to be understood technically really before a price could even be given. How much is your service? Like sometimes we say to his family, an extra setup is, call it $500 for the sake of this podcast. That's based on what we assume to be the norm, but then there's these added nuances.
Yeah. So in my experience, what gets you the furthest for a service on site in a separate room is 2 microphones. I think that gets you 99% of the way there. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, a guitar player doesn't need to be amplified more than what they're already playing based on the size of the room or the guest count. Most of the time, and I'm saying that this isn't normal. However, cantors and rabbis have their way of doing things, and some of them have a serious tunnel vision on what they believe they want. And if that's the case, all we can do is say, okay, we'll provide that for you. But it may change the scope and the packaging.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm not a musician, so maybe it's easier for me to say this, but I believe that if you're hiring a musician, they should be self-sufficient. If a guy's going to show up with a guitar, he probably should have a small little amplifier that he could plug into, that he understands how it works. He understands how it sounds. He knows the wire that he needs to take between guitar to amp, and he can be self-sufficient. We may still need a mic up for vocals, but can he do his own music? Now, can we handle the music? Sure, in a lot of cases we can, but this is also based on assumptions that the guitarist is up on the bima too. I mean, we're talking with the client right now that doesn't actually know where the guitarist is going to be. Is he going to fit up on that stage or podium? The guitarist might be off to the side. That's a whole other, nuance of, is it a wired microphone or wireless? Like, there's so much that goes into this.
It reminds me of like families just saying, hey, just put on some pictures for my montage. Well, there's so much more to it than just showing up some pictures.
Right.
Like, there's so much more to a service than just setting up a couple microphones and a speaker. There is more to it, and when you want it done right, you need to have these conversations.
So let's back out of this conversation for a second, Dylan. Let's talk about pros and cons of having let's call this an off-site ceremony because it's not at temple, having a service at your venue. First off, I think it's super convenient.
Yeah.
Everything takes place in the same space. So pros and cons, like say you're at the Hilton and your party is from 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock, having the service start at 5 on site is super convenient. You have out-of-town guests, they could stay upstairs in a hotel room, they push the button in the elevator, they come down, the service takes place, goes right into cocktail hour, right into party. It's way easier than the morning service at a temple and then an evening service later on in the night. Because what you described earlier is there busing, is there transportation? There's so many challenges. So an on-site service or off-site service, I love. but we have to figure out the needs.
So I think that a con to having it on site is there is a chance that it costs more money for the same service from, let's say, your entertainment company. And I'm using that as an example because we deal with it every single time.
Sure.
But now we have to charge an early setup fee, and for the exclusive reason of we need to sound test all of the spaces before your service takes place. Otherwise, we're going to be mic checking and sound checking while your service is taking place in the other room, and whether we're providing the sound for that or not, you want that to be done beforehand so it's not interfering with you.
Yeah, and we're a very caring company. We care about our clients. We never want to rattle any feathers, but a lot of times we find out about these nuances with services after the original booking. We book a 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock celebration, and then they say, oh, I just need you guys an hour before. But then we find out, due to temple rules and the logistics and guest arrival and parking and the doors that we have to load into, that the temple really wants us there by the venue, wants us there by 3 in the afternoon to get everything in. It's like, wow, that's really early for that 7 o'clock start all of a sudden.
So it changes that from a scope perspective, and you may incur costs that you didn't expect for the exact same service.
Now let me flip that. You might also save costs. When your service is at a temple, a lot of time they don't allow photo and video on a Saturday. If your party happens at a Hilton again, and just moments before you have a rabbi or cantor show up, your photographer and videographer team is already there. There's no temple rule that says he or she can't film at the Hyatt or the Hilton. So you might actually save money, because a lot of times you find out that there's if you want like a photo shoot on a Thursday night, and you have to bring your photographer in to get posed pictures on the bima a couple days before the actual service. So if I'm not talking myself around in a circle here, which I tend to do, sometimes I think you might save money.
I don't know enough about the photography packages, but the logic is there.
I know that they do charge, hey, if we have to come a different day, there's a fee in most cases.
So you have to ask, all right, here's another con, but if done correctly, can be flipped into a pro. If your rabbi or cantor is not super dialed in to the start and end time of the service, you could end and the rest of the venue program isn't ready. Your cocktail hour, the entertainment company, because they all have the start time of 6 o'clock, and you call your service for 5 o'clock, and it ends up running only 45 minutes. Well, now you have a 15-minute gap where the food's not out hot. The bartenders aren't in place.
Yeah.
The entertainment company's still doing the pre-shift meeting where they're getting ready for that on the hour start.
Right.
So, but when done correctly, you hit a stride where it's the emotion of a service comes to a close. Simmons of a Mazel Tov, we're all super happy, and then the doors open into your cocktail space of whatever capacity, and it's just such a nice transition into that celebration style.
Yeah.
So understanding the timing and backing into that timing is really important. So asking your cantor, your rabbi, whoever's leading your service, how long on average does this take? Oh, it takes 45 minutes and we're going to call for 5 o'clock, but your party starts at 6. Don't start at 5 o'clock. Start at 5:15.
Or simple enough, tell the caterer, I may need you ready 15 minutes early. Tell the DJ, I may need you ready 15 minutes early. That's okay.
Sometimes,
you're right. Sometimes they may not physically be able to do it, but a lot of the better venues have their cocktail hours ready, before guests arrive. There's nothing worse though than watching the setup happening in real time in front of guests.
You don't want it. Your guests don't want it. It puts a really awkward position of when can I get my first drink? When can I start eating?
And I hate when they hold guests. For whatever reason, the venue's not ready, and the guests have to wait somewhere. And they're sitting in a lobby packed like sardines, waiting for the cocktail hour space. So to avoid these problems is the goal of this podcast.
Well, and it's all stemming from your service end time and your cocktail hour start time, because you're having it on the same location. Mm-hmm. That really matters. I think that what's important about a podcast topic like this is to realize that it doesn't just happen. There has to be some forethought. And for example, we found out for this weekend that there needs to be not only a service, but 3 microphones and a guitarist plugged in. We had to change the gear that's going to this truck. Going into this truck. And had we not had enough gear allocated in the different ways, we may not have had that specific piece that's needed to get this guitarist mic'd up the right way. We may not have had it.
Right.
It may have been allocated for a different event that did tell us that. And the last thing we want to do is say no.
Absolutely.
It takes planning. Now, you may not know how to talk the talk. So, ask.
I have 2 words: communicate and teamwork. Those are my 2 words. Teamwork is 2 words or 1 word? Let's combine that into 1 word. So, communicate. Communicate to your vendors. Communicate what your needs are. Communicate what your expectations are. And communicate as early as possible. And then teamwork. Get the vendors together. Don't just assume that party A is going to understand what party B needs. Let them coexist. Let them communicate. Let them understand and have that conversation. And outside of facilitating, hey, party A, I need you to talk to party B, you don't really need to be involved. Let us talk the technical language to understand that we get each other's vision.
That's right. That's right. Services don't happen on accident. We actually have a sign somewhere that says great events don't happen by accident. And it's because the transparency and the expectations are set ahead of time so that we can truly deliver exactly what it is that you're looking for. And without a great service, there's really no reason to party.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have it where there's other people involved, it's not at a temple, get the right people involved and explain to them what the needs are. And if you can't articulate it, let someone else articulate it on your behalf.
Yeah, let me there's like the perfect way to end. I almost feel like we should end there. But
you always want to say more things. It's fine.
I have one more thing.
What else is new?
Thinking about an upcoming event that's at somebody's house and the service is going to be there. And this happens from time to time when families do something more scaled back, smaller. Just think about the logistics. I was at somebody's home just recently. The service is going to be in their foyer. It's a beautiful space. They have the space. But you know what we are running into is, do we need a microphone? Do we need speakers? They need to rent chairs, setting up chairs, what we'll call theater style, facing the bima. In this case, it's probably going to be a podium of some sorts that's rented. Again, these things just don't happen. The particular one that I'm speaking about, Dylan, there's only 40 guests. The room has a nice echo to it. We're debating if it's even necessary to be loud enough. Now, I believe that the rabbi, who's a professional speaker, that's his job, probably can eloquently project. But can the bar mitzvah boy, who's a little timid, might not be as loud? Is that acceptable? It depends.
Well, I mean, you take it a step further and say, what about your videographer? Do they need a direct connection, or can they pick up the ambient noise and it still be of quality?
Sure.
I mean, that matters.
Yep. I mean, the microphones that we're wearing are things that videographers commonly bring. But again, let's never assume. Let's never assume that they have enough of these to record potentially a rabbi, a cantor, a singer, 2 kids. A lot of times it's microphone A, microphone B.
Right. So ask questions if you don't know the answer, and don't assume that we also know the answer without you asking the question. Mm-hmm. Right. So episode 169, it's all about services, most specifically services that are not at a temple and how it affects your celebration. It was a good one. It was a short one, but I think it was jam-packed with information. Catch us out on all things explosive at XE Events, xeevents.com. And that brings Mastering Mitzvahs episode 169 to a close. That's Mike. I'm Dylan. Take care of yourselves.
And don't forget to buy our book, Mastering Mitzvahs, on Amazon.
Look at that.
See ya.